All right, welcome back to the In the Works, where we celebrate ingenuity, resilience, and the craftsmanship through interviews with the people behind GRIP6, entrepreneurs, and other American-based businesses. Subscribe to us on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. In today's episode, we are answering some frequently asked questions by you, our customers and viewers. I'm going to have two guests on today, starting off with BJ. You know BJ, because he's the man, the face of GRIP6. And thanks for coming on the show again.
Oh, anytime.
One day we'll have you hosting all of them.
Sounds good.
No.
I'd rather host than be hosted.
Hey, next episode, we'll make you host.
All right.
All right. With that, we're going to just jump in. We're going to start with some easy ones, and then we'll kind of dive into some of the other interesting ones that I pulled.
Sounds good.
Obviously, look, we know when we say we're American-based, we're American-based. So where's we had from customer service, they said, where's GRIP6 located? Apparently, that's a question that we get asked.
GRIP6 is located in Midvale, Utah.
Not very, not
so it's
exciting.
really close to Salt Lake City, just outside of Salt Lake. Yeah,
Yeah, it's not very exciting.
pretty boring.
Pretty boring. In our area, I think when people come here, they don't think it's a fact. They don't realize. I remember first coming here, and I was like, oh, it's a small shop,
Yeah.
but big building.
Yep.
We got to have space, huh?
Yep.
All right.
Space to make stuff.
We got space to make stuff. All right. Again, this is one that we've talked about a lot, and we share in all of our ads, but do we have a warranty?
We have the best warranty. I mean, a lot of people have a similar warranty, but we guarantee everything for life for a couple of reasons. Number one, it kind of holds us to our high standard of just making good quality stuff. Number two, we want to make sure that people can trust us so that when they buy stuff, they go, oh, okay, I don't have to worry about it. If it's from GRIP6, I know if something goes wrong, they'll take care of me.
Right.
And that's what we try to do. So the guarantee is actually for life for everything that we do, but it's functionality. So if you get a belt and you decide to lay on the cement and scratch it up, your belt's still going to work, but it's going to look ugly. That's on you. We're not going to replace that. But if it breaks because of our craftsmanship, we'll definitely take care of it.
Right. Follow up to this question, which is, you guys have an awful business plan. This comes from Chandler Donahue on one of our comments on our recent videos. I bought my GRIP6 belt 3 years ago and haven't had to buy a new one yet. What am I supposed to do with one extremely reliable belt?
You don't have to do anything with it. That's the wonderful thing. So it is kind of a tough business plan. You make something, you guarantee it for life, and then somebody buys one, or they buy 3 or 4, so they have a mix and match combo of belts, and it's like, I'm good for a long, long, long time. And that's true. So some of the things we do to get around that are we introduce new things that look nice, things that look cool, so sometimes people will upgrade because of that. But largely, yeah, for us, it's looking for new customers on a regular basis.
So what that means is the answer that I commented to him was Chandler, share your love with a friend. Yeah. Literally one of our I think, to me, I don't think it's an awful business. I think honestly it's if we have to think that we have to have a product that will expire.
Yeah. And most people do that. In fact, that's part of the plan. It's it's expensive to get new customers, so we want to maximize the use of those customers by selling them something over and over and over.
Because it's going to we're going to increase our long-term value.
Yep.
They're going to and we know that we can develop. Apple is the king.
Yeah.
Of this.
And some of those things are good. If it's food, yeah, sell it to me over and over. Make good food. I'll eat that all day, but a belt, you don't want to have to go back and get a belt every year.
No.
It's annoying.
Or, every 3 years.
Yeah.
Having the fact that look, I've talked to you with you, I'm a fluffier dude. So finding especially when I got married, I was, became fat and happy. And so, I got my taco gut, and finding a belt that fit right was a nightmare. In fact, I stopped wearing belts because I was like, I don't want to wear belts. I'm just going to go to suspenders or undergarment suspenders because I don't want to deal with the belt situation. And the fact that I don't have to deal with I can just adjust it. I can get the bigger size. I can adjust it. If I get slimmer, I can adjust it and cut it, and I'm good to go.
Yep.
That is great.
Yep.
And so if you are somebody who are why would you do this? Well, it's because we care about our product, right?
Yeah.
That's what we do. And so share it with a friend. It really does help us out.
Yeah.
All right. Continuing on with the questions. This is actually one that I'm actually curious about. is how did the name GRIP6 emerge?
Okay, I'll get a visual on this one. So when I was in college, I was trying to figure out how to design products so that I could sell them, so that I wouldn't have to get a boring engineering job.
Check out episode 2 if you haven't. He talks about this.
So, very first product I ever came up with, I was going jogging at night with a friend, and we were kind of spitballing product ideas. And it was a wallet, and over time, it turned into the GRIP6 wallet. So, the very original idea was actually, what if you had a wallet that you could hold in your hand, and every time you flipped it, it would like flip your cards back and forth, so that like a toy, kind of like it's
like a fidget.
Oh, that's not the right card. Flip it twice. There's the right card, right?
Yeah.
Mechanically, that's like very, very difficult. So anyway, the simplification was, what if you had something that you could squeeze and you could get all of your cards, and it was like, oh, there they are. They're super easy to get, and they lock in tight, right? So came up with this and did a Kickstarter. We called it the Flip and Grip wallet, but I liked the name GRIP6 because it was short, simple, and like memorable, but like nobody has it. GRIP6, it's like a weird thing. Like, what is that? I don't know.
Is it grip tape?
Yeah, a lot of people think it has something to do with a grip, but the truth is, you grip this wallet, 6 cards pop out, GRIP6. So I grabbed the grip6.com domain, and then later this actually failed on Kickstarter and was very difficult to make. I couldn't do it on the first go round, and so
all stories that you can find in episode 2, by the way.
Yeah, so that's where GRIP6 comes from. It was that very first product that I ever tried to make, and so when we started the belt company, GRIP6 was just, it was a name that we had.
You had the domain.
Had the domains.
Dude.
Just start it.
Look, I'm going to tell you right now, this is Danny's life, a life lesson for Danny that I tell people. If you have an idea and you come up with a name, you better buy that domain. Just do it. Like, a domain is $12 a year. Literally just pick it up. And if someone is, like, if you feel like you're never going to use it, then put it up for sale. But I can't tell you how many times. In fact, I was working as a contractor with a post-production house, and there was a kid who was younger, and he was like, I'm trying to decide what name for my, domain name for my portfolio. And I was like, did you buy them? Did you buy the option, some of the options you look at? He's like, no, I just wasn't sure. One of the guys went to the domain, bought it, to prove a point. And he was like, why? Oh, you bought it? And he was like, sure. He's like, no, I'll just transfer it over to you. But the
For $100.
And so when I talk to people and they're like coming with me, when they're like, hey, can you help me build a website? Or can I get content? I'm like, well, do you have these things? These are like, just when you have a business, you have a business idea, great. But there's like real estate for the digital economy.
Yeah.
And a domain is one of the big ones.
It's like the earliest thing you think about. You're thinking of anything, start thinking of names, look at those domains, because some of them are gone, and then it's like, just stop thinking about them.
Right. Because
you don't want to pay $300,000 for somebody's expensive domain.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. And some people are like really adamant about that. Like your name, and I think I've in a book or in another podcast I listened to that, look, in the early stages, honestly, a name is important, but it's not like the end of the world.
Yeah.
You can easily switch something up.
Yeah. The thing that I came to and why I liked GRIP6, it was like, no matter what your name is, you're going to have to build that brand. So in my mind, it was like, okay, keep it unique and keep it simple. Yes. I think a lot of tech companies do that, right? They come up with something, it's like, and so you think of a couple of simple things. One of them is a color, and another one would be like, a fruit or an animal, blue fox, right? It's super easy to remember. Like, it doesn't really mean anything, but then you build your brand on that.
Right.
For me, not having a color, but instead a number mixed with a word seemed like, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm an engineer. I'm like, that seems cool. I'm an idiot, but I was like, GRIP6.
Well, no, but I think 6 becomes memorable. You like, it's not, most people don't put a number in a domain, name. But, and I think your principles are actually really solid. So for what it's worth, if you've been listening to us and you're like an engineer or a product, actually, there's a product, a question here that I want to touch on that has to deal with entrepreneurs and other companies. So this comes from Deke Marshall 2992. I've been enjoying my GRIP6 products daily for the past 6 years or so, have overcome a number of manufacturing, engineering, and supply chain issues to make having overcome a number of manufacturing, engineering, and supply chain issues to make your fabulous products, does GRIP6 have a mentoring program to assist other new entrepreneurs or companies look to manufacture products in the U.S.?
That's That is actually like one of my long-term goals. Like for GRIP6, making stuff in the US and really just being like a maker, a craftsman, somebody who says, I'm passionate about this thing and we're going to do it. For me, that's manufacturing and product design. It's like combining the two. And encouraging other people to do manufacturing in the US has always been kind of like top of my priority list. We haven't actually done anything official to do that. I've had dozens of people over the years that come in, hey, let me pitch you my idea. I know you did a Kickstarter. I know you manufacture stuff. And so we don't have like a program, but dozens of people come through on a regular basis throughout the years and talk to me and my business partners about how did you get where you got? What did you overcome to get there? Look at my product. What do you think about it? And to me, it's awesome. I love seeing people that are chasing a dream. Most of the time, I look at those dreams and I'm like, ugh, that is so much work. Like I know what it's like to take something super simple, a belt, and will that into existence. And it's not easy at all. But people that have the willingness to do that, like I love that. I love watching it and I love seeing it. And I'm super happy to help people. So while we don't have an official program, I would say feel free to hit me up. bj@grip6.com. It's my email. I get a bajillion spam emails every day, so don't make it look like spam. I'm just going to archive it. But if you're really looking for some help, I'd be happy to chat with you, or if you can come by here. Most of the thing that I notice about what most people have wrong with their stuff is it's hard to make.
Yes. Okay. I actually wanted to like linger on this question a little bit more. When people think about making products, because I myself have thought like about, oh, this would be great. Many people throughout history, they think, oh, this would be a great product. But we're in an age where the idea of making a product, like we'll say those things and then someone else will come out because they decided to they actually put the work to it, right?
Yeah.
Ideas are not necessarily unique to people. I think that's something people should
I've had
realize.
so many friends that are like, oh, I thought of the Super Soaker before it came out.
Yeah.
Guess what? You should have done it.
Yeah.
Somebody else did it.
Someone else
and
did
probably 100 other people had that idea too.
Right.
But the one guy that worked on it is the one that got the money.
Exactly, right? Yeah. The idea of making a physical product in this, in the States is really where some of the biggest struggles are.
And it's daunting, yeah. One of the big problems that you run into, and we've talked to a number of people that are like in the e-com space and people that do wool and stuff, and we're like, why don't you do this in the US? And they're like, it's like impossible. You go to China and it's like, hey, I want to make this thing, and somebody will grab you and they will shepherd you to these places and they'll help you design it and they'll make the whole thing and then they'll get cheap pricing and then you're off on your way. When you go to the US, there's just really not that infrastructure, at least not anymore. It's not like there's no design house that takes you to the manufacturers in the US because there's not a lot of contract manufacturers. The manufacturers that still exist are the ones that make their own stuff.
Since the first episode, when I was producing the first episode for us, all I could think about was like you going to these individuals' locations and you finding that resistance.
Yeah. In
your experience through your journey, why is manufacturing become so lost?
In my opinion, it's kind of like a business thing. It's really easy to be an MBA, to come into a business and say, I know how to save money. We reduce overhead and we reduce costs, right? And it's like, let's get rid of the building. Let's get rid of the equipment. Let's ship this stuff overseas. And now we take all this stuff off the balance sheet and it looks like we're way more profitable.
The global economy has done wonders in a lot of different things, right? There's a lot of companies and a lot of individuals that can do more because of that opportunity.
Yeah.
I'm just so surprised of how much people have lost the sight of like what manufacturing provides. You mentioned this. What are some of the things that like you wish people would recognize when it comes to like what manufacturing provides in not even like in the US, but like in a local sense?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things, there's layers and layers of things. Number one is like it provides you an opportunity to do something that's productive that you can feel proud about if you're making good stuff. If you're making crappy stuff, it probably doesn't feel great when you have 50% returns or something.
Yes.
Or people bad-mouthing you because you make a bad product. But if you're making a good product, it's a fulfilling life. I mean, that's the honest truth of it. People that come and work at GRIP6, they're proud of the stuff that they make because people rave about it online. It's a really good product, right? We spend a lot of effort on that. So that's one benefit. Another benefit is, it provides a lot of jobs. It provides jobs not just directly to the company that's making stuff. It's all the suppliers. It's all the it's all the fringe people. It's electricians and plumbers and HVAC guys, and there's a whole bunch of that stuff. So it's very like when you pump money into manufacturing, the economy is like the return on it is the highest of any other industry. You plug in $1 to manufacturing, it's something like $3 that comes out to the economy.
Interesting.
And then for me personally, like probably the biggest benefit is people people making stuff, like being engaged in the creative process. Like I think that's important. So it doesn't have to be like on a massive manufacturing scale, but like people doing individual products, you know, like let's say you have a boring 9 to 5 job and you're working as an accountant, but you go home and you're working on some, you know, rebuild in your garage or something. Like that's the stuff, like touching things that are physical and having like a craft. I think that's a super fulfilling thing for people generally, to have a hobby, to have a thing where it's like, I built that. Yeah. I can be proud of that, you know?
There's a lot of sense in the digital aspect of like creating, like knowing how to code is building things, something digitally. Now that's where a lot of US like is, when you think of manufacturing, it's not like what we're doing. It's like, oh, I'm going to create a software code. That's where Silicon Slopes.
Software service, yeah.
Yeah, still, you know, software as a service. Yeah. Silicon Slopes here in Utah. We got Silicon Valley, you know, California. But part of it is that like people are investing money, whereas in manufacturing, it's like, no, there's not that. No. People aren't in here pumping money into people to create factories.
No, nobody's come to me and said, you're manufacturing something, we want to invest.
If you are. We will get to a day where we're like, we'll talk about the history of manufacturing in the United States, because it is really interesting and something we obviously care passionate about. So that's coming. All right, continue on with some other questions. So if you look back 4 years ago, 5 years ago, you know, early stages of when you started, what's one thing you wish you could tell yourself back then to do?
Oh, man. What would I tell myself? For us, it was just, you know, there was online ads and we were pushing stuff and we were making product, and it was really good for a really long time. COVID hit, was amazing in the short term, and it became all of it very horrible in the long term, as far as like online digital marketing changed a lot. And we probably didn't change with it as much as we should have. So going back 5 years and telling myself, I mean, I could say, watch out for this, but I don't know. The truth is, like, when it's, you know, when the hay is there, you're harvesting. Yeah. So, I don't know. So I guess the tricky part is looking at the way we do things. Because we're a manufacturer, manufacturer is freaking hard. Like, manufacturing is hard. Marketing is also very hard. I have a huge passion for manufacturing, much less of a passion for marketing. Marketing to me feels like not that they're on a moral scale, but if they were, manufacturing would be much higher than marketing. That's just the fact of it, right? So I would say, for as hard as both things are, don't forget about the marketing side of things.
Yeah, good stuff. That was from Lawn Lover, the Lawn Lover on YouTube.
Nice.
So shout out to him. Hopefully he's doing something awesome with lawns. All right. This is from Nathaniel Walter 5457. He says, I worked at and grew up around my family manufacturing company, so I love to hear about other American manufacturers. I feel like so many people don't understand how hard it can be to manufacture in America. So this video series could be a great way to educate people while informing more about your company. What do you consider your biggest challenges with competing with those businesses who only import products from overseas?
Ooh, that is mainly, I mean, that's like 95% of companies, maybe 99% of companies that we compete against. So we're in the e-com space where we're trying to sell a product online, right? So number one, that's a very competitive space. Yes. It's hard. So you got to be really good at marketing, which is a strength we're trying to develop. Not that we've been bad at it, but the
landscape has changed. Yeah. Like you said, everybody's hurting in the digital market space right now, and it's wild.
Yeah, just about everybody. I know some people who are doing amazing. But they're definitely like the
unicorns.
Yes, definitely. So most companies end up buying stuff in China, bringing it here, taking product photography, and sometimes doing the warehousing and shipping, but a lot of times not. And so really, when you think about what is the core that company is doing, it's really just marketing. It's building a brand of some kind, but they're buying their stuff. I mean, there's a little bit of product design, So there's some product design, there's some sourcing, there's some logistics, but mostly it's making content and taking videos and pretty pictures of stuff. And so people that are really good at that are directly competing against us. And so we're doing that same thing, but subtract getting the thing cheap from China and integrate, buy a bunch of multi-million-dollar machines and get a lot of people trying really hard to make this stuff and keep stuff in quality and make sure you can do it at the right magnitudes and all that kind of stuff. So one of the challenges that we had over time was like our marketing, we could get it super good, and our production was like struggling to keep up, right? And so you had to do this perfect balance of like growing marketing and production at the same time. And going from a garage, like literally my garage,
Yeah.
to the big warehouse that we're in now, that's a step-by-step process. And so you can't just grab the marketing and just gas it and then tell China like, all right, give me 1 million more, right?
Right.
Like for us, it's like, okay, we got to think about the machines, we got to buy the people, we got to train the raw materials to source all that kind of stuff. So it's challenging.
Yeah.
It's far more challenging than, I don't know, than anything else I've ever done. So,
But we're cracking the code one day at a time, right?
yeah, I guess for us the thing is like we can't just go to the moon as fast as possible.
As part of the marketing team, right? Like, and me, because in marketing, we have to understand the company. So as I've come in and I've trying to understand what we do and how we're doing things, the thing is that like what it comes down to is that we can scale, we just can't scale fast.
Yeah.
Which is what the game feels like everywhere is. People come into a space in this e-com space and they're like, we have a product, it's great. They're going to scale it as fast as possible, and they have one of two things. They're either going to sit pretty and either, start some other side brand, or they pump additional money or whatever, try to grow as big as possible. Some of them try to scale as much as possible and then do an exit and sell it off so they can go do the next thing.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, it's like they care about the product, but it's interesting to me. Do you see the same thing as like when you're looking at the landscape?
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people they're looking to build a company. They're looking to sell it at some point to make money and to retire or to buy a house or to do whatever, and maybe move on to the next project, or maybe just call it good enough. So yeah, for us, like if we were doing that, we're doing it in like the stupidest way possible, right? Like we're buying this expensive building, we're buying expensive equipment, and we're housing and inventorying like raw materials, and the whole thing is just like the hardest possible way that you could ever do that. So really that's not the goal. The goal isn't like, let's see how we can cash this thing out. The goal for us, really, for me internally at GRIP6, is having a place where you can, I don't know, be proud of what you do every day.
Yeah.
And again, we're not the best marketers. We are pretty damn good at products.
Yeah.
And people like our products. We're not perfect, but we improve all the time. And the plan over time is really to master something, to scale it as best as we can, and then when things are profitable, like let's add something else. Let's make that other thing that people are asking for, that people really want, and scale that. And it's going to take time, and but the plan is to just do it right, and then really at the end to look back at your life and say, I did something good,
Yeah.
Like
At some point, there's going to be a day where like many years down the road, some dad's going to give their kid a GRIP6 belt, and they're going to be like, that belt's going to do you good. And they're going to reach back out and they're going to realize this would become bigger, and they're not going to realize. And hopefully these episodes will be there for them to realize that like this is where we're at and what we were doing with the team we do. And now we're in a way bigger perspective, bigger warehouse with, the team that to fulfill the demand. Because that's really what it comes out, because you can, the faucet can be turned on full blast, but it can't, it's not like you said, you can't call, hey, we need X number more.
Yeah.
We can only do so much.
Yeah.
Which is what it is. So, all right, we're going to shift gears a little bit. Robert Ridley E says, do you build custom machines for our products?
We built tons of custom machines. That's been like the thing that we've been pretty good at. So, in the early days of GRIP6, it was like every 6 months we're like, we need to cut webbing for certain lengths of belts, and it's like, let's make a belt cutting machine. You can buy machines and stuff, but they're not exactly what you want. So we're like trying to make the thing exactly that we want. It needs to be flat on this side and like dog ear cut on this side. And so like every 6 months we would be like, okay, that's all right, but let's improve it. Next version, right? And so it changed from every 6 months to about every year. Now it's probably like every other year. But we will usually buy a piece of equipment. For instance, our laser strap cutter. It's what we call it. It cuts all of our straps for our belts, and it's just a big laser. It's an Epilogue laser. Shout out to Epilogue in Colorado. They make amazing lasers here in the U.S. And their software is really good.
We should
I
get
love
them on
their
the pod.
stuff. Yeah, that would be cool. Anyway, so we take this big Epilogue laser, and then we like add a bunch of stuff to it, and we integrate like a touch screen, and we make the stuff talk to each other, and all of a sudden we can load up a big roll of webbing, and out shoots like our belts that are cut to the right size and the right shape. And so as we've iterated over time, it's usually like, all right, the next version, how do we make more of them? How do we make it reduce man hours? So over time, we've actually gotten really good, especially on our belts, at reducing our labor hours. And so that has been one of the things that's helped us be pretty good as a company as far as like profitability. It's like our labor hours continue to go down. And this is one of the nice things about making stuff in yourself in the US is you're in control of it. You're in control of the machines. You can design things that will actually bring your costs down over time, because almost always costs are going up when you're contract manufacturing, unless your volumes get really big. But internally, you can actually increase the quality of your product and bring the price down at the same time. So that's a huge benefit.
Yeah, that's awesome. What about socks? Socks is not the same thing.
Socks, no. Socks are pretty well set. So you can buy the best sock knitting machine in the world, which we do. They're Lenati's. They're from Italy. They're freaking awesome. Then you can program them, and you can run them at the highest speed that they'll run, and then that's it. So then you got to train people to just make sure they're running well. You're keeping track of things, and you just get a good flow, a process of getting socks out.
At least for a little nuances, make sure you're checking out our episode, last episode, where we talk with Kevin about our socks. All right. So Mithril Forge says, even though I'm from Australia, shout out to you. It's nice to see a local company making good products. I only own and wear GRIP6 belts now.
Awesome.
It's so awesome. I think the greatest hurdle and the need to convey to other customers and to that people living around them are making the products, are supplying material they're wearing and using. We kind of talked about this in our last episode with Kevin, talking about our supply chain with our wool. Mm-hmm. Be it America, Australia, or the United Kingdom. We all will benefit more greatly if we support local businesses. Sure, it costs a bit more, but it's so worth it. But this is an interesting question that I have that I thought was fun. Gee, I wonder how good you guys would be at designing glasses frames.
Ooh.
Have you thought about this?
I thought about sunglasses a long time ago.
Yeah.
Jumping into a new product category like that is like
it's like a whole new wheelhouse, right?
Yeah, it's a new business altogether.
Yeah.
It's a new set of customers. It's a new everything. And then for us internally, it would be a new manufacturing process, right? I've never actually had glasses, so I've never paid too much attention to them.
You almost did. You thought you had a scare.
Okay, I'm getting to that age where my eyesight's starting to get there, and I'm like, I went to the doctor the other day. He told me to stop being a baby. I don't even need glasses. That's one of the things where I actually would have a lot of fun on the design side. Like, okay, how do people always do glasses? What are the issues? And could we do something that would be interesting and innovating? Probably a bit of a long-term thing. Like if we continue to be profitable and add other things, glasses isn't next on our list, but it might be down the line sometime, especially give me 5 more years when I do need glasses, and then I'm annoyed by glasses, and I'm like, I got a better idea.
Yeah, because I wanted to read the follow-up after you answer, which is they'd probably be indestructible, and we'd only need one pair for the rest of our lives.
That's exactly it. Yeah, it'd be like, how do you get it to be as lightweight as possible, as durable as possible? Yeah.
I'm sure.
Swap out lenses yourself easily. Yeah. I don't
know. Too bad you have to order them. Oh man, glasses. I've worn glasses for most of my life, and so we actually should find see if there's a glasses manufacturer that does it here in the U.S. I doubt there's anybody anymore.
I think that's a very consolidated business. This is on the manufacturing side.
Okay, because of you going in and having to like talk to suppliers and everything, and when you first start, especially with the wool portion, there are like some of it comes down to regulation, right? To like how people operate a specific industry when it comes to like manufacturing things. Is that right? Or am I?
Like, do you have an example? What do you mean?
Or I mean, like, can it, if we were gonna do glasses, we wouldn't. There's not any like sort of governing body that.
No, not for glasses.
Yeah.
It would be like if you're doing chemical stuff
Oh,
or,
right.
or
Or
things
not.
that are dangerous.
Yeah.
There's some regulatory stuff, but not much in consumer products, I wouldn't think.
Yeah. I'm not gonna think. That's all the questions that I was able to pull.
Awesome.
I don't think do we have any other ones? I guess I have one other question. If you could say one thing to our customers, what would it be?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. It's interesting to me thinking about the process somebody goes through to eventually buy something from GRIP6. And I've been thinking, like, do they find stuff on the website? Is it talking to somebody? Is it seeing a video? I don't really understand the full process or the full like path. I'm sure it's different for everybody. But yeah, thank you for giving us a try. And particularly if you try our socks, that's like we talked about the lifetime value of a customer. With belts, it's going to be what it is. It's going to stop very quickly. With socks, even though our socks are guaranteed for life, we come out with new socks. People love our socks, and it's like they're close to addictive. So give our socks a try.
If you haven't given it a try.
No, but yeah, seriously, thank you to our customers. It really is a privilege to be able to kind of like live our dream of making stuff and having people appreciate it and buy it. Yeah, it's cool.
All right, so let's head over to Kevin, where he answers a couple of questions as well. We're now with Kevin, who's going to be answering some of these next questions. You met with him on our last episode. If you haven't checked that out already, we'd love it if you would, after this episode, go check that one out, because it's all about socks, or at least all of the episode socks, but we don't nearly break the surface on what we could be talking about socks. So, Kevin, welcome back.
Thanks.
All right, so here are some of the questions we have for you today. Now, some of these are going to come with stories, as I've told BJ, but
Where do these come from?
these are going to be coming from users from our other episodes, as well as other videos and throughout the web.
Okay.
And some of the frequently asked questions.
So either customers or prospective.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So this is user too long to add. ZU59B5.
Like his username is too long. Okay.
In any case, one shout out to you. Thanks for loving the podcast and the videos. We really appreciate that. But he says, or they say, this discussion of how itchy wool clothing used to be has really hit home. This is from our last episode.
Oh, nice.
I grew up logging here in Utah along with my siblings and father. We wore those green wool pants from an army depot. They were so uncomfortable, but so necessary for hiking around in the waist-deep snow to cut down trees. And yes, they did get heavy as the snow stuck to the cuffs. I'm converted to the GRIP6 socks and belts. As long as GRIP6 socks and belts are around, I will be a fan. Thank you. As you have asked for recommendations for new products in other videos, my recommendation is a nice pair of wool pants. My question is, would we ever make wool pants?
Well, the easy answer is I don't think we'd ever say no to anything. So whether it's tomorrow or 10 years from now, that's probably another story. For the uninitiated, like U.S. manufacturing is difficult, period. The more automation you can get, the better, right? Sock machines are fairly automated, like one tech can run 10 machines or whatever. But you get into making pants and you're talking about a tried and true cut and sew operation, which there are some really intriguing new technologies out there, like flat knitting technologies. But what he's describing, I'm very familiar with those pants. I think
I have no idea.
Yeah,
When I read this comment, I was a little like, wool pants?
Yeah.
Who's out there wearing wool pants?
They were kind of cargo, kind of an olive green, and like everyone's dad had them. And that's a different product. It is a woven, but it's like a hybrid woven felted product. So it's quite a bit thicker.
Be sure to check our episode last week. We talked about felting.
Yeah,
and
exactly. And the nice thing about those pants is, and anyone that's ever lived back east, wool is phenomenal in terms of insulating, especially when wet, right? But we're talking about a fabric, not a knitted product. And so those new technologies are almost exclusively like 3D knitted products, kind of like a 3D printer, only
with fabric,
in the sense that a garment like rolls off the machine when it's done. It's really pretty impressive. But that's a true cut and sew. We're talking cutting it and sewing it together, right? That's still to this day, that's like vast majority of that is labor intensive. So we would have to figure out some things in order to do that. Labor in this country, like we'd be able to make them. It's not a question of whether we could or couldn't. It's the question is, do you really want to spend $300 on a pair of wool pants?
Right.
Because in order to cover the American labor costs.
Right.
Now, if we felt like, at some point we got big enough that it warranted it, and we had, partners in Europe or something, or Eastern Europe is still really strong in wool, where we wanted to, have a cut and sew operation in Europe. That's not out of the question, but as an American-made company, there's probably other fish to fry. Where
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, we might focus on those ones first before we went to a true cut and sew.
Yeah.
Like everyone wants a wool hoodie.
Yeah.
That's a knit product.
That is actually a question that I had.
And a 3D knitted hoodie is something we can accomplish today. Now, not in our, I'm saying if we bought the equipment.
Look, we know you guys want it. We see it in our comments, all right?
Yeah, exactly.
We
want it too, but I mean, to be fair, they're like $300,000 machines.
Yeah.
So it's an investment.
It is. Yeah. All right. So,
and also thank you to that guy for, just being a supporter of the brand.
Yes.
There's a lot of things we'd love to make out of wool. And I think if we did make those pants, we wouldn't make them out of as itchy wool. But there is one other thing to understand on that thing.
Yeah.
So and I don't want to get too deep in the woods here, but like worsted and woolen, worsted is like a spun. I think we talked about that a little bit.
Yeah, we just mentioned it.
Yeah, but those are, because that's a hybrid felted woven product, it's closer to a worsted wool, which is where the itchiness comes from. So like if you went to a true fabric where it's not felted fabric, just fabric, they wouldn't be so itchy either. And in order to get rid of like itchiness on a purely felted woolen product, you'd have to go to a super high micron, which would be expensive, even more expensive.
Yeah.
But yeah, to say pants from a broad spectrum, yes, we could make pants. To make the exact kind of pants that he's talking about, A, would anybody want them? And B, would you want to pay how much we'd have to charge?
See, but we wouldn't make those pants, right? We'd
make improvements. For sure,
we would make them.
Well, things that we would think would be improvements. Right?
We'd make it the GRIP6 way.
Yeah, right.
All right. So next question is from pitgrove.37_66.
I always wonder how people come up with these names.
I do too. Sometimes I'm very with my names, but anyways, I've never liked wearing a belt, but now I can't go anywhere without putting on a belt after discovering you guys. What goes into designing of a new belt buckle variation, and how do you program your machines to cut out those designs that you want?
Oh, that's a good question for me. I wasn't expecting belt questions. Most people just ask me about wool these days, but actually I've probably designed 70% or more of the buckles that we have here. So as the creative director, that kind of stuff falls on me, and I do a lot of product design. But it's actually pretty straightforward, other than your mind has to think almost like an army stencil. So when you're dealing with metal, you have positive shapes and negative shapes, right? There's two things we have to consider the most. Is one, will a design cut out and still be intact? Sometimes people send us these designs like, this would be amazing if we just had this. And I'm like, if you think about it, all you're going to have is a hole in the buckle because all the other design fell out because you'd have to connect all the dots, right? You have to have these little stems that connect everything and whatever. And by the time you're done, it loses its value if you're not doing it right. So it is a little bit tricky. But the other element we have to work with is the bending, right? Metal is kind of interesting in that if you start taking out too much metal here and there, when it bends, it's not a nice smooth arc, which we want on our buckles. It ends up kinking. And so we've had a number of issues over the years where we come up with a design we think is killer, and then we go to bend it, and it kinks instead of bends. Now there's a little bit of an arc there, but it catches the light the wrong way, and it doesn't look good. So we've learned over the years how to come up with things that we understand the metal that we're working with, which is on the buckles 6061, and what its limitations are. And once your mind is kind of open to that idea, it's amazing how many options there actually are. Yeah. As far as the programming of the machines, the first step in that equation, some people might think that it's like a CNC operation, and it is in the sense that it's an XY axis, but it's a laser that cuts it out. So we designed it originally in like a design program like Illustrator. You could do an AutoCAD design, but it's funny how different programs are designed. Like Illustrator is so much easier to come up with ideas. Yeah. It's not CAD is not like a creative program.
No.
But it's great at taking something from Illustrator, turning it into a CAD program, which we can then send to the laser and have it cut out. So, and at that point, it goes through the rest of the processes. And for every one that makes it, there's probably 5 that don't. Yeah. It might be getting better. But there's like a boneyard in my office of all the failed buckle designs that either people didn't like enough. Some people love them and they want copies of them. Like I made one out of a VW bus that had a surfboard on top of it. It was really ornate.
Some guy actually so I did reach out to the collectors group, and they really wanted to know if there was a surf buckle, and if there wasn't, if you could have.
That one is like, it's probably the most popular one that people ask me for. And I think I made 10 of them. I'm not even sure they ever even got anodized.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull up that, because I wasn't, because of the way I was trying to set up the podcast, I wasn't sure if I wanted to include that. But the fact that you brought it up, it's like, oh, this must be some like myth.
No, if people take tours, and back in the day that stuff was kind of out because people wanted to see what we were up to, and so there's probably a handful of people that actually saw the physical sample.
Yeah. And so, but they were like, I would love to get a copy of
Well, maybe we'll bring that one back because there's probably 2 or 3 where that seem to grow legs. Like they didn't test well or something in a focus group, but then all of a sudden
people, Which, by the way, if you are listening and you're new and you're are in love with our buckles, or just any of our like sock products and what we do, because we do quite a few. We have currently right now, we have the as of this recording, we're doing a Valentine's Day sale. We have a limited edition Coyote Crew and a limited edition Red No Show, and so we have a collectors Facebook group that some individuals have put together, and they've those are individuals out there.
Yeah, those guys know as much as us.
Yeah,
like some of them anyway are really passionate about it.
So according to so his name is Derek Heslin. He still want a surf buckle. We'll take prototype if it's available.
Okay, well, tell you what, Derek, I will dig through my drawer, and if I have one, which I don't think I do, but I'll do you a solid and dig through it, and if I've got one, it's yours.
All right. Awesome. Well, there you go, Derek. Okay. This comes from J.S. Johnson, 1975. He says, love your socks. Just wondering how much shrink you account for when making them. I have about a dozen pair of the ankle socks, and while I never use hot on my dryer temp, the socks have significantly shrunk as compared to new. Size 10.5, I'm assuming shoe size, and when new, the socks fit perfect. Now I have to stretch them before I put them on. Do you recommend going up in size? I'd hate to have to think about replacing them, but I would if the larger size would shrink down to a comfortable 10.5.
Gotcha. So there's a variety of answers, and I probably ought to cover all of them. But to start out with the easiest one, there is a standard in the industry that everything's like sized to that. What scales are? They're called boarding forms, and you put them on the forms, and the sock has to pass those tests. But it's a little bit subjective in the sense that you're dealing with an elastic product. So if you just stretch it harder, it'll go around it. And so even though there's a science to it, it's not an exact science. One of the things I would need to know what size he ordered. If he's a 10 to 12 men's, that would put him in our large and on the lower end of a large. So if he actually is in a large and we're stretching at 10 to 12, size 10 to 12 men's, and he's feeling like they're tight, then the other element is we could have made a mistake, right? There's a handful of other issues too, like feet are weird. Everyone already knows this, but you've never tried to design a sock. So if you have someone with really, really low foot volume, meaning like they're not as wide or whatever, the best way to understand foot volume is like you might have a size 10 foot, but with really low foot volume, if your foot was the equivalent of just like a bunch of marbles in a bag, then some other guy with a 10.5 with really wide feet, his feet could actually be like 40% larger volume, right, than yours, which is crazy, but that's the human body, right?
Yeah.
It's all over the map. So what happens when you have really wide feet or really narrow feet is it changes the graduation of the sock. The sock is trying so hard to stretch on one axis that it's shrinking it across the other axis. You see that a little bit on the calf as well. Like if you have really big calves, the sock has a hard time staying up on the calf, right?
That's
because the elastic it's losing the battle,
right,
and so it slides down, right? So inside the foot itself, below the ankle, same thing. So that could be an issue for him too. But it could be graduation in the construction of the sock. Our machines can, like this, the nature of the machines, they can drift over time. So we have to constantly maintain them and test them to make sure that the drift is within the specified range as far as stretch, right? And to give you I wish I could, I can't, like how much sock stretch do we build in? It's not like 1 inch.
Yeah,
It's not really like that. The sock is actually comes off the machine designed specifically to fit inside that 10 to 12 range, if it's large. What ends up happening is there's a principle called elastic rebound. So the sock has both elastic lycra combo and the plating yarn has an elastic combination to it. And when you wear a sock over time, and ours are better at this than I think anybody else's, but some are really bad. Like if you wear it, the sock gets baggy. Ours is pretty good at elastic rebound, but one of the universal things about elastic rebound in terms of resetting the way the sock was originally designed is water. And it's not a function of shrinkage. Like everyone brings up hot water or cold water. I have not noticed a difference, to be honest with you. It's not like that hot water, cold water thing feels like a cotton conversation, I think. That was like a really common thing with cotton. But we're not. What shrinks socks back down to their elastic rebound, like the original design, is water, period. It just acts as a relaxing agent. So like when we take a sock, and we should video it and show everyone.
We'll do a video.
Like have you ever seen like a shrinky dink? I think those are the things that grow in water, but maybe that's the other way around.
Yeah, the little dinosaur guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Ours, it's crazy because it does the exact opposite. You take one of our socks and you like off the machine, it says it's a medium and it looks like it would fit Bigfoot. It's such a clown sock,
yeah,
right?
it is.
And then you could put it in ice cold water and in 3 seconds it will shrink to the size it was designed to be. So the temperature doesn't really matter. The water just helps everything kind of relax a little bit. Maybe hot water helps it relax more. But if you're getting to the point where it's uncomfortable putting the sock on, at some point you probably have the wrong size sock. And that's either a mistake that we made or a mistake that they made in the sizing. I mean, sizing is a personal thing and people know their foot volume better than I do, right?
Right.
So if you've got really wide feet, you probably need to go up a size because the sock can only stretch so much and the two axes are related. So I would say maybe go up a size. And if we made a mistake, then let us know. You guys know our guarantee. So,
All right.
yep.
Speaking of hot and cold stuff,
Yeah.
we do often get a lot of times with this when I asked about customer service, what's questions, and there was, how do you properly wash our socks?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the big question that always comes up with washing is maybe shrinkage, but I think it's really hard to upend decades worth of like people's nervousness about wool shrinkage.
Yeah.
Right. So they're always like, ooh, is it cold? Should I hand wash them? And I'm like, no, they're superwash wool. You can, in all honesty, you could throw them in anything you want, hot, cold, warm, whatever. They're not white. So my personal preference is that they don't need to be hot. If they're ridiculously dirty, maybe hot, is warranted at some point. But like every day, I wash mine in cold. There are some people who say if you turn them inside out, they will pill less. People sometimes dislike pilling. It's a natural process that happens.
What is peeling?
Pilling, not peeling.
Pilling.
Pilling. Pilling is anytime you're dealing with a fiber that is not continuous.
Oh, okay.
And it happens more frequently whenever you combine two different types of fibers, which is almost everything we wear, right? Have you ever looked at your shirts? Very rarely do we have a shirt anymore that's 100% anything.
Yeah.
That's because each fiber brings a strength and a weakness, right? As a general rule, we've gotten very good at pilling, but when you deal naturally with wool, it develops like these little balls, and you can pull them off if you want, or you can leave them alone. They're rarely big enough to cause any issues, right? It's just kind of a natural part of abrasion, but essentially what it is you're dealing with a staple length fiber that's like, I don't know, 2 inches long, 3 inches long. And so unlike continuous fiber like nylon or polyester, which has their upsides and downsides, those fibers can separate themselves from the pack kind of, and then friction like inside your shoe will ball them up into something. You usually only see it in friction areas. So like a wool sweater, you might see it in the armpits.
Yeah.
And if you had like a really soft, fine knit garment, it might stand out. On a knit sweater, you might not even know they're there, but they're there.
Yeah.
I own several wool sweaters and I always look down and like, hey, look. But it's like part of the character. So, but some people compare it to, 100% poly sock and then, oh, this isn't pilling. This must be,
bad.
broken or bad.
Yeah.
No, unless it's causing discomfort, which like I said, they fall off on their own when they get too big. So and it's not like a never ending process. It just happens kind of in those early the fibers that were not as well connected to the threads, they're the ones that do it, and then it's over. So
As for drying,
just throw them in the dryer. Like
because when I was when I was doing my research for this, like we have like widespread all over. People are like, we don't even throw them in the dryer.
Like, again, I don't want to tell people there's a right or wrong.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think you can. Like I backpack with mine, I dry them on a rock. That's great. I throw them in a dryer if I'm in a hurry on high. It's fine. I don't think you're going to do any massive damage. I think as a general rule, like the same way you dry most, whether it's a delicate, I don't think it's a delicate, like a tumble dry low, I don't think it needs to be crazy. But like, I also don't think the message I'm trying to put out there is you don't need to walk around on eggshells with these things. They're pretty tough.
We've done our job.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, 100%. User actually commented asking like, with it being wool being microbial, and like, is there like a window that we could how many days individuals wear a sock?
Well, yeah. So here's the cool thing. We didn't make it, but you can look it up. There's a women's clothing company. It was like the 100-day skirt challenge.
100-day skirt.
They made a wool skirt and they challenged women to wear it for 100 straight days, and a lot of people did it. So the answer is probably subjective on you. Like if you're doing gross stuff, like your job is a little more dirty or whatever, then maybe you probably shouldn't be wearing something for 100 days. But I will tell you what I know. When we were designing our socks, I was building a cabin. I intentionally wore this. I think it was a 10 or 11 day or 9 or 10 day stretch. I wanted mostly about elastic rebound because remember, I think I talked about it last time.
Yep.
Backpacking, you don't want to carry 8 pairs of socks. So I wanted to see how well they do day in and day out. But I was also curious about the funk, if that to get to the point where it's saying goodnight to me every night, getting its own personality. And anyway, 9 days I wore the same pair of socks.
Until they got funky?
I had a friend there with me. I mean, I had a few guys helping me build this thing. And every morning, I'd be like, smell these, They're like, nah, I'm not smelling your socks. I told them what I was doing. And so they were unbiased. And toward the end, they were a teeny bit,
Yeah.
But like compared to like some poly socks that I've owned, I'm not going to name names, but like after one day.
So it's funny you say this because I've been telling because I've been wearing our socks, right? And I've noticed, I'm like, these are so good. Not only part of it's the elasticity holds.
Yep.
Right. The other thing is I'm like, I will smell my sock. I'm like, these are fine. I'm going to wear them again. So I tell my wife and Mike, because I got my girls a pair, and I was like, you can wear them for like 2 days. And my wife's like, no, she has to change them. I'm like, no, you can wear them more than one day.
Oh, absolutely. That's, to be honest with you too, we could go down a rabbit hole and I'm not going to, but it's a cultural thing, especially in the United States.
Yeah.
A lot of other countries wear a lot more wool, and I think maybe it's a little less cultural, but people outside the U.S. do not wash their clothes every single time you wear them.
Yeah.
It's actually really hard on your clothes.
Yeah.
But like wool can tolerate it. So my personal answer would be
go with what you feel.
Be scientific, experiment with it. Wear it for a day or 2 or 3, and at the end you'll be surprised. And then whatever feels right.
BJ checks his socks every night, smelling them.
Yeah.
And he goes 3 days, and then he washes them. So anyways.
Yeah.
All right, Kevin, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, no problem.
We'll see you in the next one, I guess.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of It in the Works, where we celebrate ingenuity, resilience, and craftsmanship through interviews with people behind GRIP6, entrepreneurs, and other American-based businesses. On this show, you'll learn more about the importance and successes and challenges of what it is like to manufacture here in America, while also getting a peek behind the curtain. If you'd like to join the conversation, head over to YouTube to leave us a comment or to message us on our Spotify page, either voice message or in our how did you like this episode? We do see them and we love getting them, so keep them coming. And that's it for today, so we'll see you guys in the next one.